Today I'm ranking the top 5 best meta decks in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Post-Alliance Insight. How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Post the newest core set being Alliance Insight. This new set changes so much about the game and really makes a lot of the decks that much stronger. There are going to be some really insane cards that are going to be released, and they really impact a lot of what the top decks want to do, so you have to be ready for them if you're planning to play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! So in this video, I'm going to go over my top 5 best decks post Alliance Insight, as well as give you some honorable mentions and shoutouts for what other decks I think could be really good in this upcoming format. So if you're excited for the video, do me a favor and smash the like button, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But with that being said, here are the top 5 best meta decks in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Starting off with our number 5 best meta deck, we have none other than Risle Fimith. In my opinion, this is the second best way to play Risle right now. Risle has fallen off quite a bit, not because the deck itself is bad, but because it's lost a lot of its ability to be as consistent as it wants to be. One of the issues that Risle has had, even when it just first was released, was its consistency was a bit of a problem. It had 12 one-card combos with the Ice Risle, X Risle, Sword Risle, and Bonfire. And now all those cards have been hit on the ban list in some way. All the Risle names are now at 2 copies and Bonfire is at 1, so you drop from 12 starters to 7. That really hurts your consistency a lot. And you can't even play Pot of Desires because if you banish 2 copies of Ice, or X, or whatever, you just kind of lose the game in an instant. On top of that, they also lost a Detonator. They lost 2 copies of Detonator, and now it's at 1, which means if Detonator gets banished, or if it gets sent to the graveyard and you lose Cross, then you can't really do anything, and you lose one of the best cards in the engine. But when you pair Risle with the Fimith cards, the deck becomes so much better. You get to take advantage of the high power of the Risle monsters, as well as the recyclability of all the Fimith cards and all their amazing endboard tools as well. And you can end on some of the most insane endboards in the game today, while also being able to fit in a ton of hand traps. The issue is that everyone and their mother is ready for Fimith. I've seen so many Silver Bullet cards being played like Ally of Justice Cycle Reader in the side deck to deal with all the Fimith cards in the graveyard. There are so many ways that we can deal with the Fimith monsters, and everyone is ready for it in their main and side deck. Both Risle and Fimith are fantastic on their own, but become even better together. The only thing is you have to change a bit of the way you want to play the decks, because if you're going to be playing Risle, you have to make sure you have level or rank 4 monsters on the field for the right moment, so it changes a bit of how you want to play the strategies. But it doesn't change the fact that the deck is incredibly good and definitely one of the best ways to play Risle or Fimith in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Moving on to number 4, we have a dark horse in Kashtira Fimith, which is going to be one of the most underrated decks in the format in my opinion. This strategy is going to be incredibly strong because it pairs 2 of the best engines in the game together, while also being able to support them with a ton of really insane non-engine and hand traps. Obviously, the Fimith cards are fantastic. I just spent time going over them and why they're so good, but when you pair them with the Kashtira cards, specifically Kashtira Unicorn, the deck becomes that much stronger. Kashtira Unicorn is essentially an FTK if it resolves against a lot of different strategies. For example, if you're playing against Risle and you banish their 1 copy of Risle Detonator, you don't really have to worry too much about the Risle endboard that much more. If you banish something like White Binder, you get rid of a lot of the follow-up that a deck like Malice would have, and if you manage to banish the only copy of Fimith Requiem, you're going to be in a great position because they can't take advantage of what makes Fimith cards so good. We also already know that Kashtira Fenrir is an incredible card and has a really unique ways of disrupting the opponent, but Kashtira Birth is a really underrated part of what the strategy tries to do. Birth being a great tool to revive back your Kashtira monsters is really strong, but more importantly, it can disrupt the graveyard whenever your opponent activates a spell card. This is super important because they can no longer access them. So if you can get rid of a bunch of the Malice names or Risle names, even getting rid of the Fimith cards or a ton of other really powerful cards in the game today, you're going to be in a great position to steal a duel. The biggest issue I have with this deck is that it's really just playing 2 different engines that are really good together. It's not like Kashtira and Fimith happen to be a match made in heaven. They're just going to be really solid engines that provide a lot of advantage and disruption and are able to easily break opponents' boards. It's because these 2 engines aren't a seamless fit that I don't have them that much higher on my top 5 list. But even though Kashtira Fimith hasn't had a huge amount of success in the past couple of weeks, in my opinion, it'll be an underrated threat in YCS Providence. Moving on to our number 3 best meta deck, we have Momento. Now Momento has been on a tear this past month. It's won 2 separate YCSs just in the past couple of weeks and has been dominating competitive Yu-Gi-Oh for the entire month of April, and it's honestly going to continue doing that in the month of May and beyond. The April ban list didn't touch this deck at all. It's basically at full power, and the best hand trap against this strategy was limited to 1 copy, being Dimension Shifter. The deck also doesn't really care about traditional hand traps that would target cards like Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler, because they have a Goblin Biker Grand Breakout and they have Bone Party as well, both of which get the monster off the field and get them additional advantage, so their effects can still resolve. And even then, the deck isn't too weak to cards like Perulia and Fualos. Sure, they can be a bit of an issue in some hands, but most of the time they can play through it and still put up a really powerful end board without giving up too many draws. It also has kind of a surprise factor going for it, because most people don't really know how to effectively hand trap the deck in the first place or what the deck is really trying to do. The best piece of advice I can give you is that if your opponent goes for the Tatsunoko Shigo and they use the effect, make sure to use Ash Blossom on that, because that card resolving is insanely powerful. The end board is strong, layered, and has a ton of different lines to get to their powerful end board pieces that all kind of change depending on what starter you open with. Momento is a phenomenal deck and definitely a strategy I never want to be matched up against. Now, before I get to my top 2 decks, and I think you guys know what they are already, I do want to go over a couple of shoutouts. The first deck I want to shout out is going to be Mermail. Mermail is a great deck, and yes, the ban list did affect it quite a bit. It lost Bahamut Shark, which is a huge problem in this strategy, and the deck itself has suffered a little bit from it, but it also lost opposing Abyss Dwellers, which is really important. The deck is able to break board super effectively, it's able to play through a ton of different interruption, and still able to hand loop the opponent, and also able to set up the barrier statue of the Torrents as well, which is still incredibly powerful. It's a really solid deck this format, but has consistency issues, so it's not in the top 5 for that reason. After that, we have Evil Twin Fimith, which is getting new support in Alliance Insight in the form of a Link 1 and a new main deck monster. Now, the Link 1 is absolutely insane. It sends from deck to grave for cost a live twin monster, which is super important, but at the same time, if that effect resolves, you'll draw a card every time your opponent responds to a Kiss a Kill or Lila effect, which is amazing. It also super easily bridges into the Fiendsmith engine because the Link 1 just so happens to be a Light Fiend monster, and on top of that, both the Fiendsmith engine and the Lila and Live Twin or Kiss a Kill engine are going to be super good at recurring their own resources back to their side of the field thanks to Trouble Sunny, while also drawing you additional cards. The deck pairs super well with the Fiendsmith engine and is definitely one of the bigger threats in the format today. And my last shoutout is going to go to a personal favorite deck of mine, being White Forest. I think White Forest is in a great position in this upcoming format. It's going to be a really strong deck with all the new support it's getting because it has a ton of really good main deck boss monsters with new consistency pieces thanks to the field spell. But the issue with this deck is going to be basically that all the hand traps that are really good this format, the Floodgate hand traps especially like Fualos, Perulia, Droll, and Lockbird are all really good against this deck as well. And on top of that, while the deck can produce some really nice end boards, it can also open up with some hands that lose to a single hand trap like Ash Blossom, specifically if they Ash Blossom the effect of LZ. If Droll wasn't going to be as good as it's going to be in this format, then I think White Forest would have a much better chance, but for that reason, it doesn't fall into my top 5. Moving on to my number 2 best meta deck, we have Mitsurugi Risle. Now, this deck got so much better after Alliance Insight, and is it fair to say that Mitsurugi is one of the best, if not the best, TCG exclusive archetype of all time? I mean, maybe Burning Abyss is up there, but this archetype is incredible. The new Habakiri is ridiculous, and the new level 4 main deck monster as well is also just insane, and those 2 cards you play at 3 copies each give the deck 6 additional starters, which if you remember when we first were talking about Risle, that strategy lost 5 starters in the first place, and now you add 6 more as part of this engine, the deck just got a lot more consistent, which was one of the major issues with this strategy. The biggest weakness though is going to be, of course, that the deck searches so much, and if you can resolve Droll and Lockbird against them, then you should pretty much just win the game, because that card against Mitsurugi is a turn ender. Mitsurugi Risle can play through a ton of hand traps and still ends on some of the most classic Risle cards, being Risle Detonator and Risle Cross, as well as the Amino Murakumo Mitsurugi as well, to force your opponent to discard cards when they activate an effect, while also being able to Raigeki their board. And the Mitsurugi cards by nature also have really good follow-up, which is super nice. And I also haven't mentioned the fact that Star Risle is also being released in Alliance Insight. This new Risle card isn't a starter per se, but it's a really solid one-of that you want to play in pretty much any Risle deck. You don't really have to play it in the Mitsurugi version, but it is nice to see every once in a while. In my opinion, Mitsurugi Risle can definitely compete against any deck in the format and has an argument for being the #1 best meta deck. but it isn't just there quite yet. That's because our number one best meta deck is going to be Malice. Now, Malice got everything you could possibly ask for out of a core set. This archetype was already one of the better ones in the game today, and it got so much. You look at Backup Adignister. This is a 1-card combo for the strategy. Wizard Adignister is one of the best extenders the deck could possibly ask for. It also got the new Allied Code-Talker Adignister, which is insane as a boss monster and one of the best pieces of the end board that it could possibly ask for. Now, you'll notice that all 3 of those cards don't have Malice in the name, and that's because they don't need to. They're just generic cyber support. But Malice is also getting 2 new amazing Malice cards. Specifically, Malice March Hare is incredible. It's another Malice name. It's a quick effect way to banish your resource to get extra bodies on the field. It's an extender. It does so much. And on top of that, there's also going to be Malice in the Mirror, which is going to be a spell card, so it's searchable off of Red Ransom, and it's going to be a monster negate as well that just so happens to banish your resource to get additional bodies on your side of the field. Basically, all the cards it could possibly have received from Alliance Insight are just incredible and really make Malice one of the best decks in the game. After the April ban list, Malice's biggest weakness was easily its consistency, and that's not really the case anymore thanks to all the new amazing starters the deck has access to. Now, of course, Artifact Lancia was a bit of a problem for the strategy, and we all know this, but again, Backup Adignister allows the deck to still perform a really strong combo even playing through Artifact Lancia. The deck still has a ton of room for non-engine and is able to play through a lot of opposing hand traps as well, especially thanks to all the Malice trap cards that allow you to just dodge targeting effects like Impermanent Veiler. Malice also happens to have one of the best, if not the best, grind game in all of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! It's up there with Fimith. And oh yeah, you can just play Fimith with Malice. So you can still do that even with all the new support cards. It's just that the extra deck is going to be a little tight. I just have a really hard time picking against a full power Malice deck in this format. And in my opinion, Malice is going to be easily the number one best meta deck in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Post Alliance Insights. And there you have it, that's my top 5 best meta decks in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Post the newest core set Alliance Insight. Let me know down in the comments below if you think I missed any deck or if you think I have a deck too high or too low. I would love to have a discussion with you down in the comments. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are so close to 17,000 subscribers and we can't get there without your help. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.